Imagine if you're a daily wage earner and a refugee and COVID hits your city. What happens? You lose your daily wage earnings because there is no work, either in factories, construction sites, or anywhere like shops or businesses. You also have no one to turn to, no family, no kinship networks, you know no one. So then what happens to you? You starve. That is what happened to 40,000 Rohingya refugees who are living in exile in India right now in different refugee camps across the country. They know no one, they have no income, and they have very, very little support except a bit from the United Nations High Commissioner from Refugees. I have been in touch with them because I have been running a food drive called One Little Meals
जिन्होंने हमें
as
राशन
part of
दिया.
my COVID relief efforts of my NGO Apne Aap to make sure that the most vulnerable women and girls in India, including victims of sex trafficking, get food at least during the lockdown. The refugees of one camp in Delhi knew me already because I had launched some anti trafficking initiatives with them a few years ago. So when they began to starve, they reached out to me for help. I was already raising money, I was already mobilizing supply chains to get food to the last girl. Human resources wise, finance wise, I did not say no. I simply expanded my program to reach the last girls in the refugee camp that I knew of, the Rohingya refugee camp of Delhi. They had no country to go back to because their own government had forced them out, saying that Burma or Myanmar was no longer their country, though they had lived there for generations. Bangladesh cannot accommodate them because its own landmass is disappearing into the sea. They already have a large Rohingya refugee camp. So I was thinking these people have no homeland, they have no food, and they are living on the mercy of Indian government. And what more can happen to them? I'm giving them food, they are starving, and nothing worse can happen to anybody, right? But something worse did happen. Vigilantes came in June, mid June this year, and burned down, actually burned to cinder, a refugee camp in Madanpur Khera in Delhi. 250 families were suddenly left overnight with not a shirt on their backs. The story becomes even more tragic because these refugees are scared to name the vigilantes. They're scared to name the vigilantes because they have no country to go back to and they don't want to annoy the country they are living in. The Supreme Court very recently had passed an order in which it had asked all the Rohingya refugees living in Kashmir to go back to their homeland. Their homeland, their country does not want them. So, what are these Rohingya refugees going to do? Are they going to disappear into thin air? And I think that was the fear which has stopped the Rohingya refugees in Delhi from naming anybody. The military junta in Burma, which has exiled so many of its own citizens from the country, and that's the government in power now. In a coup in February this year, the military junta just took power. It already had power in the past. There was a brief intermission of democracy in between in Burma when Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate, had come to power. But in this coup, the military junta just not only took power, but it arrested Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate, again, along with her other political leaders and colleagues. Tintin and Somin were teenagers, students away from their country because they wanted to remind the world and carry on a campaign about democracy and Burma and the atrocities of the military junta. They were running a radio station in exile to inform the world about what happened. They got married while they were here, and I attended the wedding in the home of the socialist leader George Fernandez. Both So and Min Min actually were also critical of Aung San Suu Kyi's democracy because she never embraced democracy fully, even when she had a chance. She did not stand by the Rohingya refugees. In fact, she was critical of the Rohingya refugees as they kept getting exiled. Not only did she not invite the exiled Rohingya refugees back to the country, but she allowed the atrocities against them to continue and made discriminatory statements against them. Today, as she goes back to jail, I think that she might be thinking that all our freedoms are interconnected. Because had she embraced democracy more fully, neither would she be arrested again today, nor would the Rohingya refugees be left without a homeland. And this really makes us think about how our democracies are interconnected. And if we don't fight for the most weak in our democracy, we will not be able to save democracy for ourselves.